Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday version of This Week in Rockdale. And I'd like to just thank each and every one of you for joining me this evening. And we are going to have a special guest tonight. Mr. Chris Curran is going to be joining us here in a second. I'm going to bring him on, say hi to him, and then we're going to say hello to some people in the chat. Let me go ahead and bring Chris on. Hey, Chris, good evening. How are you doing today?
Hey, Larry, doing well. This weather is very nice considering
We got rid of through the mist this morning, and then it got really nice this evening. So,
Yeah,
Chris, welcome to the show. We're gonna say hello to a bunch of people who have joined us tonight. Then we're gonna get going. I'll let you introduce yourself, and we're gonna talk about overdevelopment in Rockdale County. That's what I think we're gonna talk about. So let's go here. Mary Boysworth, welcome to the show. Charlotte Gellert. Welcome, Dan Burks, Alex McDonald. Welcome to the show. CJ Lester, Kelly Farr, great to have you. Miss Russo, great to have you. Bill Campbell, great to have you. Cheryl Moten, great to have you. Angela Asperino, great to have you on the show tonight. Great to have all you guys on. And Mr. George Kelichek, Eye of the Taxpayer, making an appearance on the show tonight. Thanks for showing up tonight, George. Hey, Chris. So great to have you here tonight.
thank you.
You know, I was going to say, for you guys, any of you that don't know Chris has been active in the community for a couple years now, battling what I refer to as the overdevelopment of high density housing developments in Rockdale County, and especially in areas where there should not be high density housing developments. And Chris has been able to organize rather well, and I think he's teaching some other folks how to do that. And we had this planning and zoning meeting the other night, and I think Chris is going to address that. And this thing went on to wee hours of the morning, and I'm going to let Chris address that and why it went so long and why there was so many people at a planning and zoning committee. Chris, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, that was, if I understand it, unusual. Went to what, like 12:30, I think.
12:30 in the morning. Yes.
They had a mixture of city business and county business. I don't think the county business got started until around 10 p.m. or something. I don't really recall, but yeah, everybody's trying to jam their projects in here at the end of the year before the new board takes over, because everybody knows the new board's going to put the brakes on development for a short period of time, at least until we can reevaluate where we're at and what we're doing. As Larry mentioned, we are way overbuilt. I mean, we got almost 6,500 approved building sites for homes here in the county that haven't even started yet. We don't know what impact those projects are going to have on our infrastructure, and they're continuing to approve developments.
Chris and I've rode by several and that have been complete for a minute.
Yeah.
And there's hardly anybody in them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And am I correct when I say that a lot of these that were initially going to be for sale have now transitioned to for rent and lease?
Yeah, that's happening up there on the Middle Chapel area. They're behind Publix and Target, or adjacent to it, perhaps. I don't think it's actually behind. But anyway, there was a whole section there that was supposed to be for sale, but now I see it's just the rentals. I understand we need rentals, but we need people invested in our community too. Rentals don't really achieve that. But those homes there in Miller Crossing, it's not Miller Chapel, is it? That's Miller Crossing. Anyway, on the Publix up there on 20. They don't
by the Target.
Yeah. They don't appear to be selling either. There's a lot of just big ugly boxes sitting there, but it doesn't appear to be going anywhere either. But yeah, the meeting was.
Charlotte just said 6 hours and 23 minutes.
It was nuts. It's nuts. My wife finally had to bail, and I hitched a ride home with somebody else there. But, I don't think many people were prepared for it going that long. But yeah, it was a quagmire, to be putting it nicely, I think.
So, Chris, what do you see as the main catalyst that's driving this desire for this high density development?
Well, it's to maximize profits. I mean, that's not a hard thing to figure out. I mean, I'm a numbers guy. I appreciate these developers, and they get $8 per square foot and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we got a small, it's a small development. It's not fair to call it development. It's a 5 acre lot, literally across the street from where they're talking about putting this Potts Farm there at Walker and Ebenezer. They sold that last year, busted it up into 4 separate lots of 1.25 acres lease. I think they had to get a zoning permit for it, but nobody argued it. Everybody's okay with that.
Well, a lot of these areas, I think, are already agricultural residential.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, we
So,
are.
if you would bust them up into 1 acre lots,
Nobody's going to argue about that.
well, and I actually believe that you couldn't argue with it because they're zoned for that.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's 1 for every 2 acres out here where we're at. But
Yeah,
nobody complained about an acre because those homes there they just built, literally, the sod is still catching on. It's that new. They sold those. I think this is pretty much as soon as they started one and finished the other. And I heard the numbers are between 600 and 700. So there's no doubt there's a market for homes on larger lots in the higher price range. But getting back to the overbuilt state, we've got 300, approximately a little more than 300,000 homes sitting new, unsold in the Southeast. Those are numbers approaching the 2008. Actually, I think it's
I got some statistics a few weeks ago. We actually have more homes that are vacant and on the market now than we did before the crash of 08.
Yeah. So what's been going on the past few years is, everybody, with the COVID and everybody shifting how they're living and working and stuff, builders went nuts. And, Rockdale County, to put it lightly, was very friendly to developers. Property prices were good 3 or 4 years ago, too, for doing those kind of things. These are all things that are going to attract developers. And they just kind of went nuts out here, as we've all seen. Well, now that the bubble's about to pop, and pretty much every expert out there is saying this. We had a bubble coming that's going to pop. They're panicking because they kind of missed the boat. They're trying to get their project jammed in here before the end of the year, trying to get their stuff done before they won't be able to. But honestly, the game is past. I'm sorry you missed it. Now you got to.
Chris, when did you move to Rockdale?
Rockdale, I guess 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago.
Right. Well, I was here during the last bubble thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there were developments that were approved then that
Mm-hmm.
never happened.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, and let's just be realistic right now. You've got all these thousands of homes that are approved right now. You and I are both business guys. We know what's going on out there in the economy. We know what's going to happen next year at some point.
Yeah.
Probably third quarter-ish.
Yeah. We don't have a housing shortage. We've got an economy problem.
We got an economy problem.
The houses that are there now. So building more doesn't make any sense to me.
No. So what's going to happen with these projects that are slated to happen? They're not going to be able to get funding to do them. It's not going to happen. So a lot of these things they're going to sit and they may never happen.
Mm-hmm.
But
they're doing these things too with the property developers. The property guys will come in and clear the land and just be a dust bowl because some developer, they're going to resell that to a developer, won't be able to. So we're going to be stuck with parcels of land that's just going to be clear cut and dust bowls, and nothing will ever happen to it.
Well, yeah, I think Mr. Kelichek had told us how many, how much vegetation, how much timber is left in the county,
Yeah.
and it's dismal now, and that's one of the reasons. Would you agree, Chris?
Yeah.
I mean that's why we've got so much stormwater runoff problems in Rockdale County right now.
Yeah, it's a huge problem out here. I documented this at the beginning of the year, and to the chairman's credit, Chairman Nesbitt's credit, he did step in and help me to a great degree on getting. So I had like half of Ebenezer Road stormwater coming on my driveway. Every time it rained just slightly, it washed my driveway out. And I'm a quarter mile down the road. It's a lot of driveway to wash out. So I did get a new driveway out of that. But yeah, it's a huge problem, and the old growth is a huge problem, as George was talking about. 27% left. And next up, my property was granted conservation status a couple of years ago, specifically because of the old growth on my property. And my property is adjacent to this Potts Farm thing. They've got old growth out there. which, you know, also helps, is a home to some endangered species that's out there. But they're sitting on top of the watershed out here. You can't build almost 200 homes that sit in headwaters of the watershed for Honey Creek and Cohen Dam area. It's just nuts. I moved up here 5 years ago from Florida, Tampa Bay area. Um, Lawn runoff is a huge problem down there. It's a nightmare problem. The EPA has some pretty strict regulations. They say that it's one of the more severe problems right now in our landscapes. It destroys waterways and it doesn't come back. We can't have, you know, I mean, somebody in a neighborhood where you got stormwater control and it can wash down to the system and go into a system and it's built for dealing with that kind of stuff. Okay, maybe. But when you have it going into the waters, right down into the waters of our headwaters and our streams, you can't do that. It's nuts. So, you know, and you know, it's the audacity of this plan is to me stunning. We've been going as a year now. I think it's the fourth time we've been in planning development with these guys, and planning has always said no every time. And not once, you know, everybody's been talking to them. Our group has a stellar record with working with other groups. You know this. So, you know, not once has anybody tried to work with us on this. And a lot of people have told them, including planning and the planning committee, knock it down to 100 homes. You'll get it in there. It won't be a problem. The Potts family could already have had their money, but they're so determined to push this D.R. Horton plan through. Well, finally, D.R. Horton walked away from it in July. They said enough. Well, you know, I think they went into panic mode and realized that, you know, if they don't get this thing in for the end of the year, it's not going to happen for a while. So, you know, they've got some out of county attorney running over here and trying to threaten the board with. I don't know. If everybody in the audience Thursday night kind of felt like that the council was threatening the board. So,
and well, you wanted to talk about that, Chris. You wanted to bring up that council's aggressive behavior, and you also wanted to bring up a letter that was written.
Yeah. You know, in July, the Potts family representative, you know, was up there talking and made some statements that caught everybody's attention about, you know, how he grew up here with an 850 square foot house, but then now he's living out of the county in a 5-bathroom house, 6 if you count the porch. And I guess the gentleman thought that was humor. You know, I thought it was audacious and pompous and completely out of touch with the community. That to me is stunning. And then to come in here Thursday and basically start telling us, you know, things change. This is not how, you know, we're not going to stay the same way all the time. And then launches into a 10-minute history lesson on what that family has done for Conyers in the last 150 years and how hard they've had it and how we don't know what hard work is. Well, you know, excuse me, I grew up on a farm. I do know what working on a farm is. And working on a farm is why I said I was going to work in the air conditioning when I grew up. And I do. So, you know, that it's the audacity of this action they're trying to take and putting this monster, you know, that they want to take their money, get the maximum dollar for it and take off out of the county and leave us with Potterville. It doesn't belong here. It doesn't belong in that environmentally sensitive area. Put something appropriate in there. We would work with them. Nobody in the community is against that. I mean, we were using Cliff Woodall, who did great Thursday night, mentioned that little 4-home development there, and it's selling. It's on good sized lots. I think 1.25 acres is the number. But they're fixated on pushing this D.R. Horton plan through. Now, I don't know if they couldn't get a new one in time after the July thing. I don't know. I've worked with Ken over at PEC a few times, and he seems to be a stand-up guy. I mean, he's caught between a rock and a hard place.
Well, I mean, you mentioned it right in the beginning. It's about maximizing how many units they can sell for profit.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to, is breaking that up as small as you can, as many units as you can, to get as much money as you can.
Yeah, but like a Thursday night, Dr. Hatchell was mentioning that she thinks maybe these developers should be coming to them and maybe get some pre-approval, make sure the developer's up to doing these kind of things. There's no developer in this project to talk to or hold accountable if something goes left in this. This is just a family panicking, taking the last developer's plan that decided it wasn't worth it to leave. And instead of coming up with something new, As I understand it, these folks got the money. They could have given Ken over at PEC a nice little bonus. Say, hurry up, we need this in 2 weeks. Come up with something with a 100-house plan so we can get this passed before the end of the year. I'd be on their side helping them. But this whole thing smells of old money in Conyers, and they're used to getting their way and pitching a fit now that they're not. And I'm sorry, we're not country bumpkins here. We don't roll over.
Kelly just made a comment here. It's amazing what money will do to people.
Yes, it is. I wouldn't mind trying to find out if it would do that to me a little bit. Maybe all of us could say that, but yeah, I mean, I've heard there's some drama going on over there in that family regarding all this kind of stuff, and in some ways I feel bad for them in that respect. I met Betsy. I don't know, a couple of years ago. She seemed like a really nice lady because our property is adjoining, and up there, that fence line on Ebenezer, which by the way is like, it's like a slalom track. It's like trying out at a road course. People fly through there, and we couldn't get out of our driveway safely. So we went over and met with her and asked permission to clean up that fence line ourselves, and we did. My wife and I went out there and spent a few weekends cleaning it up, and she was really nice and very, very gentle woman. So it feels like, somebody else is trying to run the show over there and maximize a dollar and hurry up and sell and get out of town kind of thing. And, I'd like to help them hurry up and sell and get out of town, but not with this plan. I'm sorry. No. And the plan, there's a lot of things wrong with it. One of the things that really just freaks me out is they want to build a retention pond. You've been to my house, Larry. Right on the end of my driveway, just across that little fence line, they want to put a retention pond or stormwater plant, whatever the hell they call them these days. Right up there. Well, that's 13 feet elevation above my head there. And retention ponds, especially by these developers, have a history of breaking out. That 13, you put an 8-acre retention pond 13 feet above my head, 90 feet from me, it's going to wash me away. And if I'm in the house at night, I'm dead. So, I've got a lot of problems with their plan. That 175 house plan, which is nothing more than a modified 205 that they started with last year. Sorry, I can't agree to that. It's not safe. Not to mention that they're right there in the headwaters. I mean, I'm not a tree hugger. I work on computer stuff at Honey Bake Ham. I like technology. I like change. I embrace that stuff. But this is not just somebody complaining about the headwaters. No, this is real. George Kelichek has documented this. This is not Chicken Little crying in the sky. This is real. And the shame of it is that the plans that like George Kelichek has for his those communities he's working with would be a wonderful solution for out here. But nobody wants to talk about it because they're all brain locked on this darn D.R. Horton plan. But I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me.
What I was interested was the letter that you that you said was written. And one of the comments about, I think you guys were concerned about the family meeting with the chairman and what may have, and I told you, I don't have a problem with citizens meeting with elected officials, right? So, I mean, I've just become an elected official myself, and I will meet with constituents, right? Yeah. But this is my problem. I mean, this is my situation where I see it. Any elected official that meets with public, mm-hmm. You need to meet with them to hear their concerns, but you need to not work with them till you may benefit from the outcome.
Yeah,
that's and I think that's maybe the concerns that the citizens of Rockdale County are having right now. They're concerned that back behind the door meetings are happening and private deals are being set up, and it may be to the benefit of both parties and not to the benefit of the citizens and the county.
Yeah, I want to be careful here and make it clear that I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything wrong here. But, there's been a number of things developed here in the past week that just, I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Counsel for the applicant is lobbing thinly veiled threats at planning and development. The planning committee. We know that one of the commission board members is friendly with management there at DR Horton. And now in the middle of this letter that council was reading, states clearly that they met with the chairman and the planning department prior to bringing it to find the best use for this property and enjoyment for those of the county. Okay, let's put a hard stop on that right there. Even if there was nothing nefarious going on there, what do you mean the best use of this land is putting a DR Horton community there? Who said that? And how is this going to better the enjoyment of the community? I'm sorry, it stinks. I don't understand this meeting that only now has come to light after a year of this going back and forth. So something I would like to know more about that meeting, and if it was done properly, there should be notes and there should be witnesses in that room too, according to what I've been reading and what I've been told. Because when I first found out about this, I started digging into it, reaching out to professionals who knew more better about this than myself, and including yourself, and came to the understanding that no, it's not illegal and it's probably not against policy, but there is a certain procedure to be had and done. So I hope that procedure was followed, and I hope the notes of that meeting are available.
Well, I've had meetings at the county.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had meetings where it's just been me and one individual.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been several individuals,
mm-hmm.
and the meetings have always been recorded.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would like to know more.
You know what I mean? I mean those, but I think personally that needs to happen just to keep transparency on both sides.
Yeah, and those who know me well know that I am ardently against conspiracy theories. I think they're an easy way out for solutions. I usually believe there's better answers to all of this kind of stuff. So I'm hesitant to believe any of the conspiracy theories that are lobbed towards this topic, including someone over there sitting in the living room. She's it's a difficult pill to swallow. The Potts Farm project is the only project still being recommended by planning development staff. The other projects that's been on the books that we went into the marathon hours with Thursday night are not. And I spoke with Mr. Wheeler about that. Now, admittedly, he only recently became into a position of decision there at the department. So I'm not trying to blame anybody for anything, but I do have a hard time understanding why a property that's so obviously an environmental challenge and that the developer walked away from, I probably suspect because of those environmental challenges. It wasn't because the guy next door was scary me. I mean, no, DR Horton doesn't walk away from folks like me. They just eat me up and spit me out, So they had solid reason to walk away from that. And I suspect it's the environmental challenge there. No developer is going to be able to come in there and not deal with those challenges too. So I'm curious about that meeting. It bothers me. I want to know more.
And I think the citizens have right to ask more, and I think maybe some open record requests may need to be asked. Or if there are any minutes or if there are any notes regarding this meeting. I doubt you'll get a response back. There'll be that there is no such information to your response request, but it would not hurt to ask such questions. I mean, Chris, I think I told you before, we talked earlier, and I'd mentioned my concern with any of this kind of stuff, and when you're not transparent about it and you don't protect yourself with these meetings, is that you've just our neighboring county, Newton County, the chairman right now is suspended.
Yeah.
If the post member wins, well, when she wins election in November, she's going to immediately be suspended because both of them are implemented in a money laundering case involving a land deal. Yeah. And I think I told you the number one infraction or fraud that occurs in government across the United States is land deals.
Yeah.
And it's just, especially local municipalities and counties. It is a high incident of fraud involving land deals. And it's just people sometimes can't help themselves. They look at it as low hanging fruit. And it's just, well, nobody will know, nobody will find out. Well, nobody knows and nobody finds out until somebody gets mad because they got cut out of the pie. And that's when somebody tells on somebody. Well, I
Yeah.
didn't get my 2%, so I'm telling on them. And then you have the FBI comes in, they do an investigation, and voila, the governor ends up suspending elected officials.
Yeah.
That happens.
Well, in this particular case, I feel that the best thing as far as being to avoid any view of impropriety is for 2 of the 3 members to recuse themselves from even voting. One is known to have close relationships with management there. And this meeting thing with Mr. Nesbitt. Now, again, I'm not claiming there was something wrong or nefarious there. I've had no negative interactions with Mr. Nesbitt since I've been here. They've all been positive. So I'm hesitant to jump into that boat, but I am curious. It doesn't seem proper. That, or better yet, just defer the whole case until the next administration and nobody has to deal with this. To me, that seems to be the cleanest solution for the current board to avoid any nonsense problems. I mean, they're getting ready to do the changeover stuff here with the new administration. They're all lining up, getting ready for what they're going to do next. And I wish them well. I hope they hope them the best. They don't need this headache. Turn it over to the next administration. Let them deal with it. But right now,
Alex wanted to know Alex wants to know what the address of the property is.
Pardon me?
Alex wanted to know what the address of the property is, the Potts Farm address.
They've got 3 of them in the application. I'd have to
you just one of them, and he'd be able to.
I don't know if I don't have that information in front of me.
Charlotte, one of you guys have the address? One of the addresses?
Cheryl Moulton, is she here? She's here. She's
in there too.
Yeah.
Cheryl, why don't you put that out there so Alex can?
Got that. Cheryl's got everything. She's our walking encyclopedia.
Yeah, they all have that stuff. So let's just put that out there, and I think we'll, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's I think 3 different addresses on the listing, because I think they're all Walker Road addresses too, if I'm not mistaken. But there might be an Ebenezer address. My address is Ebenezer, but I'm on the I guess the southeast side of the property. The whole side of that property is me down there. So we're on a 10-acre stretch out here next to them. So
there we go. They put it up, Cheryl, 1720 Walker Road and 1680 and 1700. So that's the addresses. Alex and Charlotte and Cheryl both put the addresses up there, and I knew they would both have that information, Chris, because that's who they are.
Okay, Bill says my address is 2985 Ebenezer.
Right.
I'm on the other side of that. Walker's up here, and I'm down here. So, but we encapsulate the Walker farm. Well, not just us personally. I mean, over there on Walker, there's a number of homes. Cliff is over there. Dave and Katie Gamble are over there. I think Susan's over there. Susan Smith. There's a few people over there.
Well, and this is the thing about it. I mean, we've just got, and it's not just there. It's all over Rockdale County.
Yeah.
That you've got this high density development maneuver that's being attempted, right? Yeah. And it is harmful and impactful.
Yeah.
To everywhere, right? And like I said, we understand you can't stop development, but we would like to see proper development.
Yeah, I would like to see that develop, because honestly, right now, every time it rains hard, now even with the help from the county earlier this year down at the end of my driveway, I still get a lot of flooding from that field because it's higher than me. All of that rainwater comes over to me, and it comes right down my driveway, right down through my yard into the creek back there. If that place was properly developed, that would certainly help me with some of that runoff. I'm fine with that being developed. I just don't want 200 homes smacked over there in the middle of an environmentally sensitive area. You got old growth out here. I mean, we got endangered species out here. We got it's the headwaters. I don't know how to explain that any differently, how important that is. George does a much better job at that than I do. He's much more skilled and educated in those areas than myself.
Well, I think the folks of Rockdale County showed up and showed out this past Thursday.
Boy, didn't they?
They did. I mean, it
Yeah.
was the main building was full. The auxiliary was packed. I mean, and people stayed. You mean they, nobody waited them out, right?
No, no, it was, you know, yeah, no, that was an interesting evening in lots of ways. We tried for a couple of weeks to get the venue moved. They said no, we can't because we've already advertised. But last year when this thing started over here, I think it's a year ago this month, they didn't follow procedure and do the public notice properly. They missed notifying because I'm adjacent. They have to send me a letter. Well, they missed their deadline by one day, and a day is a day. So I made them redo it. They were able to reschedule that, change the signs, and effect that change. So when you say you can't change the venue last Thursday because you've already advertised it, I'm like, but you did that last year with me, so I know you have a process for it. You just didn't want to do it. Maybe it's expensive. Maybe it costs a few $100s or so to reprint those signs. I don't know, but that in the scheduling. I mean, I was joking with some of the people in the audience. It's like maybe we should get them a calendar. I mean, it's a new piece of technology, but you can write down on there what day something's already planned. And if you see somebody come else with something that wants to be planned, look at that day and see if there's already 9 things scheduled. And if so, don't do it some other time. But man, I don't know why all that was scheduled. I mean, was this the only planning meeting that's going to happen the rest of the year? I mean,
I don't think so. I think they were just trying to cram it in because they probably have, when people file certain things, they probably have X number of days to have an initial hearing. They're probably following their code, their rules. You know what I mean?
But I don't know. Somebody needs to work out the planning on that planning part a little better. It seems like
or you may need to have
alternate meetings because that was nuts.
Right, or more than one meeting, right?
Yeah.
Maybe this week we need to have 2 meetings because there's just so much.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, Tom called a 5-minute break. I don't know, in the middle of the night, 10 or so. I'm like, 5 minutes is not long enough to run over to Whistle Stop and get a beer, So let's just keep going. But I don't know. 12:30 at night was, I think, a little too long to be for everybody. The citizens and the planning committee. Those guys are volunteers. I don't know. And then to get yelled at, but okay.
Yeah. So, Clayton says he doesn't really think it's the developers the issue. He says it comes down to the property, what the property owner wants to try to do, and what the county will allow. And I think you mentioned that, Chris. You think that these property owners want to maximize it. They'll go to a developer and try to get the max they can for their dollar. It comes down to that, that's why they need to get special use permits and change the code, because what they're wanting to do doesn't match with what the code that allows them to do something. They want to do something different than what is allowed. And that there lies the problem.
Yeah.
But if they don't want to follow the existing code and do what they're allowed to do. They want to alter it and do something else.
Yeah. And I will tell you this, though, in the past year or two, whatever it's been, working with the group and with Corliss at Voices for Rockdale and stuff, I think these little agencies are starting to get an idea for the teeth in this community. I think we can affect change. We just had a development approved, I think it was June, right up there at 138 in Ebenezer, literally a half a mile from where we're talking about this development. 15 acres, approximately 15, I think it's 15 and a half. Let's say 15 acres for 93 or 95 homes, or I think townhomes. And part of that is it, but that's pretty dense. And they call it high density. This high density out here feels weird. I don't know why. And that intersection is already troublesome. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm thinking you're going to improve, this here, and 175 plus that 95. That's what, 268 or something like
Well,
that.
what was it? What was it? Jim Corbett refers it as is putting Parkin Avenue in the middle of Green Acres.
Yeah, yeah, that was good. That was good.
That was good. I mean, and that's the and you've got this. That's why it feels funny, I
Yeah,
believe. Right, Chris? I mean, right? Because the high density just doesn't fit
yeah.
and doesn't look right where they're trying to put
It's
it.
like, what? Really? And the poor people at the bottom of that hill, they're already getting washed out and stuff now because of previous negligence and stuff going on there. But the thing was is that nobody showed up and fought. Nobody, it was just one poor woman up there with them, and they got, and the board of commissioners rubber stamped them. Um, I I really hope. What I think it really would be the best for everybody involved here, and nobody could be pointing fingers and accusing of anything, and because nobody's got time for that, right? It's just defer the action, let the next administration rule on this
Well, I
zoning.
mean, and I think you're right. What needs to happen, the new administration needs to come in. They need to look at the land use plan. They need to look at the way things are zoned, and they
Yeah,
need to make sure that the ordinances match up with the zoning.
yeah, and Tom already mentioned that that's something that's already. He didn't mention it to me. He in response to councils, man, they're council's hammering hard. Oh, the land use map says this. It says this. It says this. It's like, man, but it says that before they knew that it was such an environmentally sensitive area. It's okay to make a mistake, but you can't keep barreling down the road headstrong because it's a bad call. But I'm going to keep going anyway. No, stop. No, be reasonable here. The board did not know that it was environmentally sensitive and in the location of our headwaters when they changed that land use map. I'm confident of that. How would they have known that, right?
Right.
However, in hindsight being what it is, it's like, okay, we didn't know that, but it doesn't mean that you can go build on it here because you buffaloed us into us making this land use map.
Well, but Dan Burks just
Our board
said
is that
mentioned
evil.
something.
I don't think our board is that evil, to be honest with you.
Dan Burks just mentioned something, a complete review of the sewage system and what it can handle. And, that's something Bill Campbell has talked about, right?
Yeah,
Bill Campbell has talked about we need to really take a deep dive, look at our infrastructure,
yeah,
what it can do, what the changes we're going to do, what impact that has already, because we're going to close a couple of package plants, put some other things online.
yeah,
We need to actually know what we're doing, how we're doing it, and what that looks like in 2 years,
yeah.
right? So
So
we need to look at that.
yeah, they're over here talking about tying two 12-inch water mains together to supply. I'm like, hold on a minute. Tying two 12-inch water mains does not increase the water flow. It does not. A 12-inch pipe can only move so much water per minute, period. I don't care how many 12-inch mains are connected to it. It can move that certain amount of water for longer without
It
running
moves
out.
it, and then it
Yeah,
restricts. And you get you
basically,
still have your restriction.
yeah, exactly. And the common engineering standards for older pipe like we have out here is you don't want to move that water more than 5 feet per second. Because if you do, then you start running into problems. It can blow things out, cause residential damage, all that kind of stuff. So basically, the 12-inch pipe will move 5 gallons per 5 feet per second. I think works out to be like 1,782 gallons per minute. I'm a little weird on fire regulations. My son is a lieutenant in the fire department down in Florida, not here. But he does teach ISO regulations, which, if you recall, the county recently started touting a new ISO regulation of level 2.
I heard that, yes.
I've got the ISO regulation manual here. I've been studying it. Part of the regulation is that you touch a fire hydrant twice a year, which means you kind of come up to it. Doesn't mean you just touch it, like touch your head. No, you got to open it up and do some basic stuff to it. Simple and easy, quick. But then I think it's every 4 years you have to do an actual inspection. I've lived here 3 years. I got video cameras at the end of my drive, all up and down my driveway. Technology is what I do. I've never seen anybody inspect that fire hydrant at the end of my driveway. It looks like it hasn't been touched in decades. Maybe not decades, but it looks that way. I asked, we got the reports from the county on inspections. I can find where they've inspected 3 hydrants on Ebenezer. There's 14 hydrants on Ebenezer. So, at least on the surface, to me, that ISO report seems to be based on fraudulent data. Now, part of it was that, as I understand it, we had a contractor doing the hydrant inspections out here for a while, but apparently they weren't doing it. They were defrauding our local county. Now, again, that doesn't put blame on our county, but the reality is that we don't know what the state of our fire hydrant is. We don't follow NFP regulations on that. There's a lot of infrastructure issues out here. That when you start talking about infrastructure, I can go off deep with you on infrastructure issues. We don't have time in this show for all of that kind of stuff. But the point is that we do have infrastructure issues. We've got overbuilding out here, and we're pushing things too hard. And if history has taught us anything, when you push any system too hard, it explodes. It fails miserably. We cannot afford that out here. It's wrong. Never mind the environmental issues, but we need to stop. We need to reevaluate, see where we're at, take account of where we're at, make a plan, and then move forward. And we need to build, of course. We need to keep the home business. And there's a lot of people in that industry who need jobs and mortgages to pay and cars to buy. And yes, we need to keep all that. We need to be aware of that. We're not talking about just pulling a dome over Conyers and everybody go away. Not at all. I want a Costco out here. I'm a Costco nut. But we're not going to get that without the population. And we're not going to get a lot of other things. Well, I could go off on the school system, but you and I agree on that, Larry.
Well, we're actually, thank you for shifting to the school system. We're going to talk about
to me, it's the most important thing in our county. The overbuilding is one thing, but we got to get our school system fixed. Nobody's going to come here and buy these expensive houses and put their kid in a D-rated school. Nobody's going to do. Our own children won't come here for that.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I was going to talk about something that happened this week. Were you aware of an incident that happened at Edwards Middle School this week?
Yeah, I was at your thing Wednesday. We talked about that. Yeah.
So I want to discuss that a little bit, right? Because and I want you to stay on the show whenever you were at the event, and then and you pay attention to the community and everything too. So I want to have someone else's input, right? So this is what my take, right? So I pulled up an article right here. I'm going to just look at and the sheriff's department said they were doing a random safety check and noticed two people acting suspicious, and that instituted or initiated a lockdown and to make sure everybody was safe. And then after doing some checking, they found that one of the suspects had two razor knives on him. And then we come to find out it's a little deeper than that, right? That the day before, that one of the individuals had made some threats to some students, and that's why that individual was arrested for terroristic threats, right? Then you've got that was the son, the younger one. Then the older one was arrested for having the two razor knives on his presence, right? And this is what I want to say. I want to actually thank law enforcement. I think they did an excellent job in response. They responded. They made sure everybody was okay. They handled the situation. We had more than enough people to handle that. I mean, they had the kitchen sink there, right? Mm-hmm. So if something would have been more serious, they had the resources to handle it. So I want to accommodate law enforcement for their actions. Now this is where my criticism comes in, and I'm gonna tell you, Chris, I was bombarded with phone calls from parents and citizens the last few days, right? And they also were in agreement that they were just grateful and they did acknowledge the great job that law enforcement did. But what they were not happy about was the message that the school system sent or the lack of messaging.
Yeah,
and they did send a message. But it was, they had a lack of messaging. Okay. So, they tried to send a message that nothing was happening. Yeah. Everything was okay.
Now, was that the school system that sent that or the police that sent that?
That was the school system that
put the message. I thought because I was missing a few parts there when that woman was referring to that. So
right. It was the school system that said, everything's okay.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We're not in lockdown. Yeah. We know that, it's all under control. But this is the problem. When you put out that type of messaging, when you've got that type of response,
Yeah.
Public doesn't believe you.
Yeah. Well, can you blame them? So,
No, no,
no,
no.
I mean, I
And
don't,
they're
I don't like being buffaloed. I mean, I'm an adult. Give me the truth. Give it to me short and sweet. Don't paint it up. Just tell me. And especially if I've got kids in the school, tell me. Don't lie to me. Don't tell me something's not going on when it's not. I have a difficult. I would like to say I can understand what these parents are going through, but the reality is I can't. My
well,
children
you know,
grew up in an environment where this wasn't the reality, so I can't imagine the fear and the truckload of pressure on these people's chests when they think their child is in danger at school. I
and
can't.
and I don't know. You guys were at the planning meeting, and I was over at the board of commission meeting. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
board of education meeting, and and Dan Burks just made a comment. Right, I'm going to put it up here. I did not like that the superintendent cut off a member of the board. So, and what happened at the board meeting was, board member Kenny, Justin Kenny, was actually making a comment that he he didn't like the messaging. The parents didn't like the messaging. They didn't, that they think that they didn't feel that the message was a strong enough message compared to what the response was, right?
Mhm.
So they got into a little bit of a disagreement on on the board, and there were several parents at the meeting, and they got into some back and forth with the superintendent, and the board's attorney had to counsel everybody, gets to calm down, tell them, this wasn't the situation for it. And I think they all took a break and they went and talked in private and such, right? But this is the thing about it is you can't tell people nothing happened when you had that kind of police response,
Yeah,
right?
nothing happened, but Marines just landed, right?
Well, you had a helicopter,
Yeah,
you had
like,
DNR, you had at least four different agencies that
yeah,
responded to that, right?
yeah. It seems
So,
there's got to be a Simpson episode to mirror that. There must be.
this is the thing about be more transparent
Mhm.
with the
Yeah,
messaging that you send. We had a significant threat. The threat has been neutralized.
yeah.
Your children are fine,
There
but
you go.
we are in a lockdown.
Yeah,
And until we get the all clear, you will not be able to enter the school. They will not be able to exit the school.
yeah,
But everything is under control. We have ample law enforcement on site
yeah,
to, to assure the safety of
yeah,
students and staff and anyone who is on at the facility at this time. It
yeah.
just needed to be a better message.
Yeah, the aggravation and the fear of many of those parents there at your meeting Wednesday night, it was palpable. And I was making an effort to try to put myself in their shoes and came to the realization, I guess I can't. I didn't, I mean, when I went to high school, in the country, I grew up in Plant City, Florida, little country town thing there. Half the school had pickup trucks, and half of those trucks had shotguns in the back window of the truck. There was never a problem. We never had these kind of issues. My kids grew up in an environment where this wasn't happening yet. So I can't relate to what these parents are going through and the fear and never mind why and how. I'm just trying to understand these parents. It's real. You can point fingers at whose fault and what's at fault all day long, but the bottom line is these parents are dealing with significant fear with their children, and they at least should be told the truth. That message you just put out, that should have been the first message that was put out instead of this puff piece that nothing's wrong. So, and that just builds more fear and distrust in the system, and that's not what we want right now. We need that.
Well, and I think that's what we've got across all spectrum of government in Rockdale. We've got mistrust,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
People,
maybe all spectrums of government, but still. Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
but we're going to just keep it right real in Rockdale, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we had the election results we had in Rockdale
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
past year, right?
Yeah.
That's why we had incumbents defeated, challengers win,
Yeah.
is because the citizens of Rockdale County are demanding transparency.
Yeah. Enough
Right?
is enough.
They're not going to accept business as usual anymore.
No.
And that's what I think some people that are on boards now, some people who don't get it, right?
Yeah.
That the citizens of Rockdale County have spoken. Enough is enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
and your day of just saying what you want to and telling us anything that you think you can, and we just have to believe it. Those days are over. The
No. Yeah.
citizens of Rockdale County are there. Enough is enough, and we want transparency. We want the truth,
Yeah.
and you know what? We can handle the truth, and
Yeah. And by the
you
way,
need
we're
to
going
be
to
able to
be
handle giving
too.
us the truth.
Yeah. Go ahead. We're going to be checking on you too, because with the team that Corliss has built, there's people checking on these things and validating and like, no, the law says this, the rules say that. So yeah, I'm very encouraged about the future here in Rockdale. I think we got some good things starting to happen here. This the
Well, I
citizens
mean,
coming together in a
I'll
way that's powerful. I think.
I'll tell you what I would like to see, Chris. I would like to see, we have now the commission meeting and any other panels that represent the commission. Those are being highly attended, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I would now like to see the city of Conyers city council meetings be attended in the same fashion.
yeah.
The board of education meetings
Well,
be attended in the same fashion. All of these meetings
yeah.
need to start to be attended in the same manner
Well, it's funny
because
you bring
that
that up.
shows that. Right now, go ahead and make your comment.
It's funny you bring that up because Corliss and I were talking the other night, and one of the things that she mentioned, and I'm going to help her work out, is we're going to start working on a methodology to where our groups can, okay, you're going to be able to handle the BOE for this week of the month. We're going to get us some calorie and stuff, but we're going to start working to where our group is covering all the meetings, and you don't feel like you have to go to every one. I can't be at every commission meeting and stuff like that. And a lot of us can, but I can commit to being on these two meetings that month, and somebody else can commit. So we're working on coordinating these groups. We're still in the infant stages of this. The group out at Sea Farms, there's a couple other groups that's come up new here, and we want to all keep their individuality while also working together and working under one large umbrella for the good of everybody. Because really, as a large group, we can affect change.
Well, and that's I had the town hall Wednesday, the education town hall, and
It was great, by
listen,
the way. It was what, 30 people or so turned up for your very
it
first
was
one.
between
That was
30 and
great.
40 people as it
Yeah,
was
that was
people
great.
fluxed in and out, right?
They weren't just
And
sitting there either. They were involved.
it
And
was engaged. They were
yeah,
engaged.
yeah,
And
exactly.
that's the first education town hall that I know of in
Yeah,
Rockdale County. And you heard I asked the people in the room. Nobody in the room had ever attended an
no,
education town hall
no,
because
I never heard.
they never heard of it and they never knew that there ever had been one.
Yeah,
And me starting that in implementing that, right? And it's controversial. It shouldn't be controversial, Chris, but it's controversial. The
well,
fact that I'm going to do
trouble,
this.
Larry.
Say what?
Make good trouble, Larry.
Yeah, well, exactly, right. But it's controversial that a board of education member is actually going to talk to the people.
Yeah, yeah. How horrible of an idea, right? So yeah, no,
Yeah,
yeah,
we need and I got to commend uh, Rhonda Taylor, right, for her town halls that she's having in Rockdale County, right? And I actually think the city needs, some council members need to have some town halls, right? And some board of commission members need to start having some town halls separate
hmm
from the meetings because, as you see at the meeting, it's very limited to what people can say in the interaction, right?
yeah. It's very structured. And it needs to be. It needs to be. But the town hall is a better forum for that, and they need to have those too because you need both.
And but you see at the meeting I had, people were actually able to speak.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
able to engage,
yeah.
right?
Great.
They were actually able to actually say what they wanted to say and get it off their chest,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, it sounds like a cliche, but the microphone was literally passed around the room. Um, it was great. People were engaged. They were passionate. It wasn't one of those just I'm gonna show up and get some free cookies and leave kind of stuff. No, people. There wasn't any free cookies, by the way. But yeah, people were there engaged. I mean,
And Charlotte just made a point. Remember those front porch meetings they were having over at the hospital? Charlotte says those front porch meetings were scripted.
mm,
And anybody can say what they want. They came to the education town hall. That was not a scripted meeting. I
No,
didn't know what anybody was going to say.
no.
But
That whole
what?
conversation about the cell phones broke out, and it was I think as a I wouldn't say an uninterested party because I don't have any children going through this, but I thought a lot of good points were made on both sides of that argument. And
Let me tell you where I stand on that. As a board
yeah,
member, I'm going to tell you where I'm going to stand on that.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I'm going to stand on the fact that that they should not be in a student's hand
Okay, yeah,
during
yeah,
instructional time period. They should be put up in their backpack. They all have backpacks.
okay,
They should be put up in their backpack, but in their possession.
yeah,
Okay. And if they don't listen to instruction and they have them out, then they go to the office and they get suspended. You have to learn how to listen. And then
yeah,
parents need to realize if your child doesn't behave and doesn't listen during class, they're going to go home.
yeah. I mean, putting the phones in those little, I guess, they're little Faraday cage bags or something, right? But
Just put them in your
I suppose
backpack.
that's one thing, but I
Just
don't.
put
I
a
can I can
just
see the parents point that in like in the Edwards and they want to get a hold of their kid and find out if they're alive. So like,
yeah,
ooh, okay,
yeah.
really good point. I don't know how to argue against that.
Well,
But
I mean, and I can't either, and that's why I'm saying let
yeah,
the kids keep them, right?
yeah. It's like when I
But
was when we
but
were
you
in high
have to learn how to listen,
yeah,
right?
you couldn't have your calculator out during the test when I was in
When you and I went to school, you couldn't have a calculator,
yeah,
right?
get it
You
up.
could have the calculator, but it had to go in your desk or in your backpack,
Yep, yeah,
right?
yep.
So
So same
they
thing
need
with the
they need to respect the teachers and they need to respect the rules.
yeah,
And if they can't respect that, then there's a consequence.
yeah.
Yeah, we're
Maybe
going to let you keep your phone,
yeah,
but you're going to put it up.
yeah. I mean,
No more nonsense,
I think
right?
that works. If that doesn't satisfy, maybe a box at the front of the classroom where everybody.
I think that's also the thing is, well, then they got to be able to get it, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but this thing about it, you want to be treated respectfully, then you have to treat other people with respect.
I agree.
The rule is you can have your phone, you just can't have it out during instructional time period. Or when the teacher says it has to be put up, it
Yeah,
needs to be put up.
yeah,
When the teacher says it can be out, it can be out. But it is on your in your possession and it is you have it all the time.
yeah.
You just have to follow the rules. If you can't follow the rules, then your ability to carry a phone at school gets taken away.
Seems reasonable to me. I mean, it sounds like a
Yeah, I mean, if you can't follow the rules, can't have a phone.
well, and it would be a much more cost-effective solution too, because those little bags that whoever's selling those to the school, they're not selling them at a discount. Somebody's making some money there too. So why should our school system be spending money on Faraday bags when you could just follow the rules?
I just point blank, not even. I mean, if you have your phone as long as you follow the rules. If you don't follow the rules, then no phone.
Yeah,
Parents say, "Well, I want them to have their phone." Well, they need to follow the rules.
yeah.
Phone's taken away they're suspended, and when they come back, they don't have the phone for a week.
Yeah, well, but the school board needs to back up the teachers to support that too. The teachers need to feel like they're standing on solid ground because somebody's mother calls up and starts raising Cain with the teacher because she took her little Johnny's phone away. That could probably be
Then
very
then the administration needs to
yeah,
back
yeah.
those teachers,
Our
right?
teachers need to feel like
And
they have their backs.
because that's what teachers say. They need discipline in the classroom to be able to teach.
Yeah,
Parents want their students taught. They want grades improved. They want the system to become better. So we all have to work together, and
hmm,
everybody's going to have to make sacrifice.
yep.
And it all comes down to discipline, and we're going to have to respect each other. And respect, you just can't do what you want to do. And that's where it comes down to it. It comes down
And
to
tell the truth when you send messages to parents that not everything is okay.
yeah, exactly. Be
Respect.
transparent.
Yeah, you
Be
can.
transparent.
Yeah, you can't demand that everybody respect the school board and have them putting out stuff like that too. So everybody needs to step up the respect game here and just like, okay, let's not do Hatfield and McCoy to rest.
No, we're going to let your kids have their phones. They can have their phones. They just got
Good,
to follow the rules.
good.
If you can't follow the rules, then you don't get to keep your phone.
There you go.
So accountability, that's what Tina says. Accountability in all caps. Thank you. Chris, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. When I sign off, just hang in and we'll talk a little bit after we
Okay.
sign
Well,
off.
thanks for having me, Larry. It's
You're
been
welcome, guys. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me tonight. Been a great show. We got a lot of insight with Chris tonight about development. Talked a little bit about the Board of Education and what happened with the event this week at Edwards. You know, the purpose of this show is to keep you informed and updated on local events and what's happening in Rockdale County. So I'm going to do my best to try to do that. I'm going to do my best to try to keep you informed. Guys, thank you for making this show successful, and thank you each and every one for joining us each Sunday. Until next Sunday, 8 p.m., Facebook and YouTube.